Hi, I'm Marcus Castaigne, and today we're going to talk about going to market, specifically looking for a role in climate in advance of our next class meeting. So here's our agenda for the day. First, we're going to talk a little bit about emotional management. Doing a career pivot can be very challenging emotionally. So we're going to talk about some strategies to address that, talk about climate-specific resources to learn to get smarter, to identify opportunities, developing what's called a LAMP target list. We'll go through that, outreach strategies, and then finishing off with something called the 3B7 process to manage your time. Okay, so emotional management through the job search. So tips for managing yourself through a career pivot. Our first approach is to utilize an 80-20 approach, where you're going to get 80% of your result from 20% of the effort. Trying to keep at least one variable constant. That could be your industry, your function, your geography. It's a lot easier to pivot from something that you know how to do, such as a specific job function, into a new industry, or to stay within the same company but in a different role. Keeping your industry constant, but changing the role that you're in. Pursuing growing markets. There are always more opportunities in markets that are growing rapidly. So that's where we want to look first. Meaningful action versus lots of activity. This happens a lot with my students. They feel like they're being really productive by applying to lots of jobs, but if you're just submitting applications without doing any networking, it's not likely to lead anything. So we want to actually make meaningful action. Setting realistic expectations for ourselves, and of course that's going to be different depending on the person and depending on what you're looking for. Developing a support team of people who can provide contacts, feedback, but also emotional support in helping you keep yourself grounded through the process. And finally, it's tough to be out there. Try not to take rejection personally and do whatever you can to stay emotionally healthy. And when you do get bad news, to just shake that off and keep moving forward. So onward, let's talk a little bit about some climate-specific resources. First, I'm a huge fan of podcasts, but in whatever way you learn best, whether that's listening or if that is reading or going to events. Some of the podcasts that I enjoy a lot, MCJ Collective, which stands for My Climate Journey. It's actually both a capital venture capital firm as well as a podcast that does a lot of research. But they do a lot of stories with founders, with policymakers, with funders who are focused on different parts of the climate space. So they become really deep dives into particular issues, which are very interesting. The Energy Gang is all over the transition to renewable energy in all of its aspects. Climate Rising is out of Harvard Business School. I found it to be really interesting overview of the climate space and the various subsectors within it. The Climate Question also covers a lot of ground. There are so many podcasts. These are just a few of the ones that I listen to. Going in depth, doing some coursework. Terra.do offers, or Terra.do I think, offers online courses. I took one through Air Miners, focused very narrowly on carbon removal. You can Google that, Air Miners Carbon Removal Academy. And that one was free and self-facilitated in small groups for about 6 weeks, I think. And then industry conferences. There's tons and tons of conferences and events going on related to all these topics. Job openings. MCJ Collective also has a job board. I believe Terra.do does as well. Work for Climate, Climate Draft. Find opportunities. They may not be the best places where you want to spend all of your time, because as I was saying, we only want to spend a lot of our time networking, but in terms of understanding what companies are out there and who's hiring, look at the job boards. And so you want to learn at the level of the industry vertical that you're interested in. Don't spend all of your top time reading the New York Times. It's great to read the New York Times. I do it every day. But you're only going to get a very high level overview of the issues, and you need to be at the industry level, following the industry news and what's happening at that sectoral level to really inform yourself and prepare yourself for the job search. So a layup target list, and this builds off of a fantastic book that a colleague of mine named Steve Dalton wrote called The 2-Hour Job Search. And it is that 80-20 approach that I mentioned a minute ago, as well as managing your energy by automating the processes. So in his first step, and I'm going to walk you through this, he finds and prioritizes companies. And that's a 70-minute process. So not tons of time. And then within those companies, spending some time to find contacts and employers. So you see that's 2 hours right there, 120 minutes. And the third step is to do what he calls a 3B7 routine. And that is something you can do for less than a half hour a day to just automate this process for yourself, so that you maximize your energy and your quality of effort that you're putting into this. So let's first talk about who you're trying to connect with. We say our first goal is to really identify people out there who can help you with your job search. And there are a lot of people out there who, again, Steve Dalton refers to as curmudgeons, and they're not interested in helping you. And they're probably not going to respond to your emails asking to connect with them. And that's okay. People are doing their own thing. They're chasing their own dragons. And so they will ignore you and you can ignore them and just go on with your job search. More challenging people out there are the obligates. People who feel like they should help you, maybe because you went to the same university or you're a friend of a friend, and they're driven by guilt, but they don't really want to engage and help you. And so ultimately, they're going to waste your time. And the people we're really trying to get to, we call the Lisa Simpsons, are the boosters. And they have a genuine interest in helping you, and they're going to respond. So your whole task when you're out there is to find the relevant boosters and build relationships with them. So generating the LAMP target list. As I said, it's an 80-20 approach. LAMP stands for list, alumni, motivation, and postings. And I'll walk you through that in a second. You're going to stay focused on one task at a time. We know all this research that says if you keep switching tasks, the changing costs are very high in terms of your productivity. So you want to stay focused on one task at a time and avoid going down rabbit holes. Third, we do this to manage our energy and emotions. And we will limit this to a 70-minute exercise. If you go a little bit over, nobody's going to come and chase you down and punish you for that. But we don't want to turn it into a huge ordeal that you spend tons and tons of time doing. So how do we build our list? So we're going to just create a simple spreadsheet with 4 columns: list, alumni, motivation, and postings. And start out by listing your dream employers, maybe 10 companies that you find through LinkedIn. Maybe these are companies you're probably already familiar with because they're your dream employers. Look at their company pages, list them out. Industry leaders, looking at industry reports and news, maybe doing a search for the areas you think you might be interested in, using ChatGPT or another platform. Doing keyword searches on Indeed.com, which is one of the largest job boards, most effective job boards. Look at nearby companies. Most people are connected to a particular geography. What companies do you know of that are active? In larger cities, you might have a business journal, such as, for example, where I live in Los Angeles, we have Los Angeles Business Journal. They love to put together lists, the top 20 companies in climate, or the top 30 green companies, or the companies that are leading in sustainability, or whatever it might be. And you can follow local media. Our goal here is to put together 40 companies in 40 minutes. And you're going to add more later on as you learn more. And your list is going to change, and that's just fine. That's okay. And our goal at this point is not to double click. We just want to write down the company name. We're not double clicking, and we're not going down rabbit holes and doing a lot of research at this point of the game. As we complete our list, we're going to go to LinkedIn and say, for each of these companies, do we have alumni from some of the schools, universities that we've graduated from? And alumni is a broad description. It might also just be someone who you have a connection with. It doesn't have to literally be only an alum from your institution. So write down a yes or no in that category. Put your motivation. If you've just heard the company, you don't know much about them, just put down a 1 for now. If they're your dream employer, you've always wanted to work at this particular company, put them a 5. And then postings. If you look to a source like Indeed.com, are they hiring? If you find nothing, they don't seem to be hiring at all, put a 0 or put a 1 for them if there are 0 results. If they have postings, but they're not relevant, they're totally focused on a different area than what you do, put a 2. So they're in growth mode, but they're not looking for exactly what you have. If three, they're relevant postings, then you're going to list down to three. So once you have your list of 40 companies, spend 30 minutes going through and filling this out. And now we're going to sort and improve our lists. Any areas where we have a one on motivation, we're just going to go in very quickly and take a look at the company on their website, maybe on LinkedIn if they have a company page, and reassess that motivation score. And then also take a look at their postings. Are they actively hiring? So you might go and take a look at the postings and then change those numbers and reevaluate your motivation score based on the postings. Rank by desirable geography. So are they open to remote? That might be a great option for you. Or if you are tied to a particular place and they don't seem to be offering remote opportunities, factor that in. That should factor into your motivation. You can bump your motivation scores up a little bit. And then sort your list based on your motivation from largest to smallest, and so forth. So here's a fun sample I put together. You can see some of the fictional stories that I enjoy. So we have a list of 10 companies, my top 10 companies here listed as well by do I have alumni connections at any of those places? What is my motivation for these? And of course, it's going to be sorted from the top, starting with fives. And are they actively hiring? So that's our lamp list in a nutshell. We're going to come back to that in just a second, but I want to talk about how you do your outreach first. So we want to prioritize our contacts within these list of target companies. So first, most important, we're looking for functional alignment, and the more specific, more niche it is, the better. If you care about grid modernization, then you are looking for other people who also care about grid modernization. You're obsessed with soil health. That is your thing. How do we regenerate the earth by improving soil health? Well, find that group, find your tribe of people who also care about that. Second priority would be alumni of an affinity group who you have a connection with. And you're really trying to target 1 to 2 levels above where you are looking for your next role. So you want to have people who have a little bit of tenure at the organization, and they may have some power to help you get hired. That probably means they've already been promoted once there, and they have a unique name. It can be challenging when you find people with really common names to figure out what they're doing online. And you don't expect that you're going to get a huge hit rate here. If you're in the 20 to 40% hit rate on cold outreach, that's okay. And so just accept that there's going to be a lot of times that you're ignored in the process, and we don't take that personally at all. So when prioritizing our outreach, we want to focus on the return on investment of our time. So you can spend some time spending a lot of time focusing on one particular outreach, like writing this beautiful fan mail message, but it may be a lot less efficient than other forms of outreach. So we want to balance this out. LinkedIn groups are highly effective when you find that niche of people who care about exactly what you're interested in, or you're focused on exactly what they're interested in. Direct email, alumni databases are good. Finding their email, there's a tool called hunter.io. You can go if they work for a specific company and find the email format and then guess at what their email address is. Sending them fan mail, maybe somebody you heard on a podcast or they wrote an article that you really liked. And you've done your research, so you want to write this person a nice message, and you're asking them for a little bit of your time, a little bit of their time, excuse me. Sending out LinkedIn invitations to connect, always good with a little message about how you know of them or how you respect their work. What social media presence people have, that's a good way to follow what's going on. Second degree connections, when you find somebody who's interesting, who has a career similar to what you want, go and find who they're connected with, and you just learn and follow down these rabbit trails of interest. So also, if you've been to a university, look at every university has a page. This is the one for where I work at UCLA Anderson School of Management, and go to that alumni section, and you can search in there for certain keywords for certain companies, and find everybody who works in a particular area who went to that same school. So back to our example. So now we have our same list of 10 companies, but I've added contacts for each of these people. Obviously, this is fictional. And what I'm going to do with this is put together a process by which I start reaching out to all of these people systematically in their order of my motivation for them. So the first thing we're going to do is a short email message, and it's short. It's just 75 words. It's very easy for the recipient to digest, to understand what you're asking for and who you are, and to say yes or no to whether or not they will spend a little of time for you. It's 6P or 6 points, and here are the 6 points. It's very short. You're asking for insight and advice. You're not directly asking for job leads. You're stating your connection or how you know about this person. You're making your request very clearly. You're defining your interest. We say both narrowly and broadly. You're interested in transitioning into this space. That's the broadly, and you're asking for their time. That's the narrowly. And you're keeping the focus on them. People like to be complimented. They like to be appreciated. So we are not spending a lot of time talking about how wonderful we are and how much we can contribute to the space. We're just asking for their time. So, and that leads us to what we call the 3B7 process, and that's 3 days, 3 business days, and 7 business days. And I'm going to walk you through a little example. So let's say on Monday, we are going to send out 5 6-point emails to our top 5 companies. We're just going at the first contact on each of these companies. And then we're going to wait and see what happens. On Tuesday, we get a response from one of those people. John Snow has responded. So we immediately respond back to him to schedule an informational interview. Wednesday is quiet, nothing happens. On Thursday, we realize that 3 days have gone by since our initial contact, but no response. We're going to reach out to the next person on that contact list for that same company and send them a very similar 6-point email. And then we're going to respond. So by Friday, we've now done that informational interview. We got a referral. We send him a thank you note. And then on Monday, we get another response from one of our messages that went out on Thursday. We follow up and schedule an interview. We get another response. Now we're at 40% yield from the messages that went out on Thursday. We schedule interviews, and we just follow through this. By day 7, we realize that those people from Monday, the ones that never responded to us, we're just going to send them a message again, checking in. After this, if they don't respond, they're probably a curmudgeon, they're an obligate. We're going to write them off. We're not going to forget about them. We're going to forget about them. We're going to move on to new contacts who may be more helpful. But we give them one chance. And then we just follow through, following up on these informational interviews in that conversation. We're trying to impress them. We're asking questions about their career. We're learning. We're asking for referrals from more people we can connect with. And we're keeping track of all of this. And as I said at the bottom here, use a calendar, use Outlook or Google, whatever you use. And an email system to keep track of all this information. It's good to have your company list in a spreadsheet so you can keep track, but it's much more effective to set ticklers for yourself in a calendar and use your calendar system to keep track of everything. And so then this whole system is just going to keep cascading. I'm not going to walk through all of it, but informational interviews, following up. People don't respond, so you send them an additional follow-up. And that's why the 3 and 7 time is so important. So let me go through the rest of this. You can see on Wednesday here, we have another 6P email that's going out to a new group. So we've exhausted our first group. We had some hits. We're going forward with those. But now we're going to bring in a new cast of characters for some new companies. So, and of course, the whole time we're learning about new companies, we're reading, we're doing our research, we're adding new companies, maybe a new company we never even had heard of, suddenly that one flies to the top of the list because based on what someone told us, we get really excited about this company, and so then they jump up to the top of the list, and very high motivation score for them. So let me just flesh the rest of this out. You can see how this whole thing unfolds, and it's important to keep track of all of this in a calendar because it's so many contacts. You have to have some system, and if you're trying to log it all in a spreadsheet, it's just going to get mixed up. So use a calendar system for this. So I wanted to close with this thought. People love to talk about themselves. And the key to going to market and to doing effective outreach is to do it as a soft sell. It's not to sell yourself and how wonderful you are. It's really genuinely to make new friends by showing genuine interest in them, by connecting and wanting to learn. People can feel that authenticity right away. So Dale Carnegie, who's a classic, said you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years trying to get them interested in you. So with that, I look forward to seeing you in class, and thanks for listening.